Let's get into it, Coach Colin news. This is very alarming and interesting. It's interesting to see the things that are just rolling out in 2024. This bill has been passed. It is an anti-Semitism bill. It was proposed and quickly passed, supported by Republicans and Democrats alike. Very, very large numbers on both sides. We're going to go through this whole thing. But the thing I want to bring up is I made a video on this channel. It's one of the first videos I did. It was about Matt Walsh talking about what Texas was doing in regards to anti-Semitism. And I was asking the question, do you think Matt Walsh's clock is ticking when it comes to being a part of the Daily Wire? Is he going to be departed soon? Are they going to fire him because he is going against certain things that I think Ben and Jeremy would be very for? You know, enforcing more strict rules around anti-Semitism on university properties. That's something that I think Ben would be all for. But Matt was very against it. And I'm like, I wonder if his time's almost up there. Well, what I'm about to show you is Matt not only went on a very in-depth Twitter rant about how bad this is, but he also then made a video of it afterwards. I don't know. Maybe, can you imagine Matt and Candace go and make like another network together? Oh man, Matt and Candace jump over to Tucker. Whoo, buddy, you have no idea. I would love to see that, but we're gonna get into it. Let's go into it. Candace Owens also weighs in on this whole thing as well. So here, let me play this first piece for you.
It's official. The United States is under complete control from a foreign nation. The U.S. House of Representatives have just voted to criminalize criticism of Israel. H.R. 6090, known as the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, will redefine anti-Semitism as set forth by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance for the enforcement of federal anti-discrimination laws. What does that mean? Well, if you say that Israel is a racist state, that's anti-Semitism. If you draw comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis, that's also anti-Semitism. So in practice, if this bill also passes in the Senate, it would be illegal for Americans to voice opinions such as how Israel cannot be, by definition, both a Jewish state and a liberal democracy, as this op-ed in the Jerusalem Post points out. This would be anti-Semitic and illegal to say. Or how it's racist for there to be segregated roads that separate Palestinian and Jewish settlers in Jerusalem. Criticisms like these would also be considered anti-Semitic and therefore would be illegal to say, even though this is in Haaretz. Or if you want to criticize the IDF, their shoot first, ask later policy, that is also anti-Semitic, and therefore you would not be allowed to say it. It's funny, you could bash America all day long, but if you dare voice criticism of Israel, then that would not only make you an anti-Semite, but in the future, that could also mean that you could be sued, persecuted, or sanctioned by the federal government.
Well, it's final, guys. I've said Christ is king a few times, and I guess I'm going to jail. When this gets passed, I forgot to mention it's passed one, but it has to go through the Senate, and then I believe there is 1, 2, I think 3 or 4 other steps it has to go through. The last step being president signs it into law for this to happen. This is very, very, very odd. You know, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, no, it's not so odd. I know this Israel's running the American government. I don't think it is, but I do think that they definitely have the ear of the government. That is undeniable. And soon to be illegal to say. And, you know, I always just figured anti-Semitism was the racism that you put towards a Jewish person. Like, think about racism between a white person and a black person, you know, or black person being racist to a white person. And I thought you just take that and you bring that over to a Jewish person and that's it. That's anti-Semitism. But they're taking it a step further. And you know what? White people, black people, Asian people, brown people, we don't get anything like that. This is extra special. But that's the thing, you know, before I even start this whole thing, what race of people or religion is going to want this next? And how deep is that going to go? Is that going to keep on like, could you imagine this was passed for everybody? I think that's kind of what the UK has going on. Not to this extent between races and anti-Semitism, but just towards hate speech, like doing something like that. You could tweet something and make someone uncomfortable, and you can possibly have a police officer visit your house and arrest you possibly. I think this is such a bad slope. I don't even know the full inner workings of it. I'm going to show you as much as I found out, but this is going to be really bad. I mean, it's going to get to the point, the woke term microaggression. It's going to get to the point where you could make if this all would pass, you could make a microaggression, or what could be read as a microaggression, towards a Jewish person and maybe get arrested. What? What? Why can't we just be nice? Rodney King had the right idea. Let's just get along. He didn't want any law passed. He was like, just give me some money because you guys beat me up, and let's just all get along. Let's get past this and let's just all get along. This is wild. Here, let me just show you guys what Matt was talking about. Then we're going to jump right into Matt's video because he explains it even better. But I just wanted to show you some things that he actually posted in regards to the actual law. The vast majority of Republicans just voted this in to criminalize criticism of the Israeli government. If the bill passes, you will be guilty of hate speech. It will, if you apply double standards to the government of Israel or accuse it of genocide. This is honestly one of the most, what do you say here? One of the most insane pieces of legislation ever. Now, I just wanted to show this part. This, what he's showing right now, this is what their website shows in terms of examples of anti-Semitism. So denying Jewish people the right to self-determination, by example given by claiming that the existence of the state of Israel is a racist endeavor. So you can't say Israel is racist. Applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. So wait, that's talking about Israel. Oh man, see, this gets so bad. Why is I feel a foreign nation shouldn't be involved in American laws? Like, am I crazy for saying that? Like, is that bad? I don't know, man. Using symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, claims of Jews killing Jesus to characterize Israel or Israelis. Okay, so this is where people start saying that they are actually going to make parts of the Bible. Here, let me just skip over, because there is actually something that shows that. Where can I find that? Where is that? Because there are parts of the Bible that talk about exactly this. Talk about that. Where is it? Where is it? There. Perfect. So I'll just read the highlight parts. Then answered all the people and said, his blood be on us and on our children. So you wouldn't be able to say that in public, I guess, or a church wouldn't be able to say that. The Jews who both killed the Lord Jesus and their prophets have persecuted us. They please not God. Okay, so things like that you won't be able to say that. You won't be able to read that. Because I heard people saying, oh, they're making parts of the Bible, illegal potentially. And I guess that's what they mean. That's terrible. You need to understand how crazy this anti-Semitism bill is that just passed the House with wide bipartisan approval. The law requires the Department of Education to adopt the definition of anti-Semitism provided by something called the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. I went to their website. Here's the thing with this. Okay, and I'm going to jump right to the video after, but he goes on this whole rant, and I'm just showing that to show his clock's ticking, man. He's going on this rant about how bad that is. Like, Ben Shapiro sees that. Jeremy Boring sees that. They just got rid of Candace for this type of thing, didn't they? And I mean, and Matt's really laying it out. Candace was having conversations here and there. Matt's really laying out why this is so bad. So this is their definition. I'm not going to go through every single one. I've already gone through a couple with you. Anti-Semitic acts are criminal. Criminal acts are anti-Semitic. What? When the targets of attacks, whether they are people or property, such as buildings, schools, places of worship, or cemeteries, are selected because they are or perceived to be Jewish or linked to Jewish people. But I only say that because this is just a website. When I looked this up, they said this is their working definition, and the last time they updated it was February 9th, 2024. What happens when they update it again? Everybody's just going to have to move with this? That law, that American law, is going to have to move with this? Very, very interesting. Okay, now let's jump over to the video that Matt made. Again, I think Matt's clock's ticking, man. I don't know if you're allowed to do this on the Daily Wire. What does Ben Shapiro call it? The Overton window. The Overton window. The Overton window just changes from time to time. And, you know, at certain points, the Overton window actually closes a little bit. And if what you're saying falls out of the scope of the Overton windows, well, it's a non-meeting of the minds, and I can't really say more than that. You'll be fired. That's a good impression, right? Let's go.
Discussed at some length the so-called Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. And after that conversation, the bill passed the House with a bipartisan vote of 320 to 91. It won approval from both parties by wide margins, and now it heads over to the Senate, where prominent voices like Tim Scott have already voiced their support for it. Scott called it a momentous step towards rooting out anti-Semitic hate. And there was a lot of that sort of celebrating over at the House as well. Republican Representative Elise Stefanik said that the legislation is an incredibly important step to ensure that Jewish students and community members at America's universities feel safe. One of the Republican sponsors of the bill, Mike Lawler of New York, proclaimed that his bill is a key step in calling out anti-Semitism where it is. Here is Lawler in Congress explaining why this law is so necessary, allegedly. Watch.
I rise in support of my bill, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, and I want to thank my colleague, Congressman Josh Gottheimer from New Jersey, for his courage in leading on this issue. In every generation, the Jewish people have been scapegoated, harassed, evicted from their homeland, and murdered. Many of us remember the Holocaust as the most recent large-scale instance of this, but it was hardly the first in the Jewish people's long history of persecution. Prior to October 7th, it may have seemed like we were making progress in fighting anti-Semitism, especially in the United States. A prime example, Jewish students weren't afraid to attend classes on their college campuses. And yet today we hear calls for intifada ring out on school grounds. We see Jewish students being physically prevented from going to class, rioters chanting death to Israel and death to America, and so much more. In the U.S., Jews account for only 2.4% of the population, and globally they make up 0.2% of the world's population. The Jewish people need our support now.
Now, Mike Lawler's point here is that anti-Semitism is bad. All the other Republicans and Democrats who supported this bill offered similar justifications. Democrat co-sponsor Josh Gottheimer covered this same territory during his speech on the floor of the House. Listen.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of my bipartisan bill, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, to ensure that we're standing up to the Jew hatred that's spreading like wildfire on campuses across our country. I'm proud to lead this legislation with my friend and fellow Problem Solver Caucus member, Congressman Mike Lawler from New York. As we are voting today, in real time, our country's universities are experiencing a tidal wave of anti-Semitism. Protesters have targeted Jewish students, haranguing them with awful Jew-hating insults and cheering on Hamas, a barbaric foreign terrorist organization that murdered Americans on October 7th and still hold 5 living Americans hostage, including my constituent, Idan Alexander. I met with hostage families just this morning. I saw these protests up close, like many Americans did, at Columbia earlier this month. I've heard the sickening Jew-hating anti-Semitic comments comparing Zionists to Nazis, promising a redux of October 7th 1,000 times over. and calling for resistance, I quote, by any means necessary, and intifada revolution.
So once again, anti-Semitism is bad, he's saying, and indeed it is bad. But what we aren't hearing from the defenders of the bill, or even its sponsors, is why this particular bill is necessary or good or wise or ethical or constitutional. That's because it is none of those things. In fact, it is, without exaggeration, one of the worst pieces of legislation we have ever seen in our lifetimes. I already explained some of my objections to this proposed law yesterday, but let's go over this again now that I've had some more time to investigate it further, and then I have two additional thoughts to offer. But first, to review, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act that just passed the House mandates that when the Department of Education enforces federal anti-discrimination laws, it does so according to a definition of anti-Semitism provided by something called the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. So the legislation is mandating a certain definition of unlawful anti-Semitism, but it has farmed that definition out to this other group. Insanely, the bill itself never gives a definition. It only says that the definition is whatever the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance says it is. The bill adds that the examples of anti-Semitism provided by the same group shall henceforth also be a part of the legal definition of anti-Semitism. But of course, the bill doesn't tell you what those examples are either. Now, when we talked about this yesterday, I didn't know what the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance was. All I knew, all that any of us really need to know, is that it is not a legislative body of the United States government. Whatever it is, it certainly is not an organization that should have any ability to dictate legislation or define the terms in our laws. But the truth is even worse than it first appears. The IHRA is not just some random activist group. It is, as the I for international suggests, an international and intergovernmental organization founded by the Prime Minister of Sweden in 1998. It's comprised of international partners, quote unquote, like the UN and the EU, and then also 35 member countries, including the United States, the UK, and of course, Israel. Now, what this means is that our legislation is being farmed out specifically to foreign powers. Should this bill become law, it will mean that a group of foreign governments have had a say in developing speech restrictions that govern American citizens. Now, that is more than enough reason to oppose the bill absolutely and unequivocally. I would want to take this legislation and shoot it into the sun based solely on the fact that it gives foreign governments any power at all over our own people. Even if I otherwise agreed with the text of the bill, I would still oppose it on that basis alone. But I don't agree. No freedom-loving, self-respecting American should agree. As we talked about yesterday, if you go to the IHRA website to find out what their definition of anti-Semitism is, the first glance won't be very shocking. According to its definition, anti-Semitism is basically hatred of Jews. That makes sense. The trouble really starts, however, when you scroll down the page a bit and you get to examples of anti-Semitism that this cadre of foreign governments has provided. And there you'll find a number of examples which will have the force of law under this bill, including the following. Quote, these are all examples of anti-Semitism. Accusing the Jews as a people or Israel as a state of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. Accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interests of their own nations. Denying the Jewish people the right to self-determination, e.g. by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor. Applying double standards by requiring of it behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. Using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, e.g. claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel, to characterize Israel or Israelis. Drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. Holding Jews collectively responsible for actions of the State of Israel. Now, there are a number of very serious problems here. The first is that most of these examples of anti-Semitism, statements that the bill would legally classify as hate speech against Jews, are actually criticisms of the Israeli government. And whether you think the criticisms are fair or not, whether you think they're true or not, it should go without saying that American citizens have the right in any and all contexts to criticize foreign governments in whatever way and using whatever language they want. You should be able to say anything you want about a foreign government, including it's evil, it's terrible, it should exist, it should be wiped off the face of the earth. Now, I'm not saying it's right to say that, But of course you should have the right, have the right to say that about a foreign government as an American citizen. Are you kidding me? We have the right to criticize foreign government. We have the right to criticize our own government. So we must certainly then have the right to criticize the governments of other nations. Now, keep in mind, it's not just one or two opinions about the Israeli government that you're not allowed to have under this bill. That would be bad enough. Dictating the viewpoints that Americans can have or express about a foreign country is pure madness. It is evil, no matter how limited the rules might be. But these rules are actually incredibly wide in their scope. After all, it says that applying double standards to the state of Israel is anti-Semitic. Well, there are hundreds of opinions you might have about Israel that could be classified as double standards. And who determines which opinions are double standards and therefore forbidden? Well, apparently the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance gets to decide. You may recall that Israel is a member country in this alliance, which means that Israel has a hand in deciding which opinions about itself are lawful for Americans to express.
Wow. Holy, man. Holy, that's a lot. That is a lot. I remember I was explaining this to my wife. She's like, what if they do that with China? I'm like, oh, Jesus. But it's true. Like, what's the next place? What's the next place that's going to be like, hey, us too? You know? It's wild. Imagine not being able to say something about a certain foreign government. There are people right now, I'm calling them out left and right, these communists, these socialists, Marxist type of people. Right now, they're having people lead chants about death to America. Right now, they're trying to burn American flags, replace American flags with Palestinian flags. Right now, they're doing that. And they can do that. But potentially, you won't be able to do that. I mean, or at least say something about Israel. That's not good. That's really, really upsetting to hear. And I don't think people are actually going to take in, maybe they will take in how bad that is, you know? And it's not even just that it's about Israel. Just the fact, like, I went to this website for a reason. Like, here. This is the website that he's talking about, the Holocaust Remembrance. This is the working definition of anti-Semitism, which means that they can change it. They could change it. And everybody in America would just have to fall in line as it changed. So it's like this thing that's foreign, you would have to kind of stay in touch with to make sure that you're staying within the lines. Oh, man. Very, very interesting. And you know what? I keep talking about Matt and his days being numbered, but who knows? Ben Shapiro might actually be like, this is nonsense. You never know. And I know a lot of people might be rolling their eyes at that. Ben Shapiro might be like, hey, how about you just break up these protests that are all over these university campuses and just allow the Jewish students to go back to class? Maybe he'll just be like, you know, there's already, because in fact, when it comes to those protests, there's already laws in place that can have these people dispersed. Right? It's just a lot of the universities aren't taking advantage of that. A lot of them are private. If they're private, they can actually remove them by force. And some of them already have taken to doing that. But maybe Ben will be okay with it. Maybe Ben will be like, this is crazy. Can't do this. This is not fair to the American people. I don't know. I don't think so. But who knows? He might be. Candace Owens weighs in on this whole thing. When are Christians going to wake up? First, professing Christ as king during Easter week is anti-Semitic. Now, the true story of Christ's death is deemed anti-Semitic. Christians are being told that acknowledging our doctrine or history is a form of anti-Semitism. Yeah, man. It's interesting. You know, every black Christian is gonna start, if this passes, every black Christian is gonna know what white people feel like. You're gonna have to feel guilt for your religion. You're gonna have to feel shame for it. Oh, I'm very sorry about what my Bible says. I'm very, very sorry about that. Oh man. Wow. So yeah, Matt's very upset about this. He's voiced it very loudly. Ben Shapiro has not said anything. I've never seen Ben Shapiro attack Matt Walsh. I don't know. Maybe Matt Walsh handles himself better in Ben's eyes. Maybe he doesn't align himself with people like Kanye West. I don't know. Maybe they're just closer friends. I have no idea. But we may see Matt's days numbered at the Daily Wire. And if that does happen, it'll be completely because they fired him. I don't think he'll leave. I think he likes his position. I think since Candace left, he's the best thing going at the Daily Wire. But I don't know, man. What do you guys think about this bill? And just so you guys know, in case you didn't know, you can always just go congress.gov. You can always go here and look up bills. Just so you know, some people don't know about this. You can always go there and look up bills. And you can look it up and you can, here, let's do one. Let's do Restrict Act. You don't want to forget about that. Restrict Act. Where's the Restrict Act? And you can actually check it out, right? So now you're going to search here. You're going down. We'll go down. Restrict Act. There it is. Bill. Let's see. And you can actually see where it's at, like what's happening with it. So introduced. It's still introduced. And then you go down and it just shows you what's going on with the bill, right? So it's still introduced, hasn't passed Senate, hasn't passed the House, hasn't gone to the president, has not became law. Just something that was introduced. You can also see the sponsors. So here, when it comes to the Restrict Act, it is Mark R. Warren, Senator, Democrat. I believe that's Virginia. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure. And then you can go down here and actually read all about it. And then you can actually go here. I believe you can go here. Ooh, where can you go? Co-sponsors. You can go to co-sponsors as well. And this is for any act that you've heard about. You go to co-sponsors and you can see everybody who co-sponsored it. Right? So just keep that in mind. Lindsey Graham, of course. Of course. Hey, listen. Anything that gets me a little more control of people, you got to understand. I never had kids. I don't like them. But the thing about it is, I love controlling me some people. Let's all get out of here and let's go see if we can go get some missile money. You think Joe's got some missile money for us? Oh, that 60 billion was sweet. Best money we ever spent. Best money we ever spent. I'll tell you what. A demon like me needs a whole bunch of money every now and then. You know? I don't have kids. I don't really care. I like having me some money. You understand? That's why I like that Trump character. He has a whole bunch of money. I'm always trying to poke and prod him just to get some of that money. I love me some money. Anyways, the site's called congress.gov. And you can always stay updated on stuff there. That should be a bookmark for everybody, just so you can see where everything's at. You know what I mean? But let me know what you think about this whole bill. If you think it's rational, if you think it makes sense for what's going on right now with all of these protests and everything, or do you think that maybe they should be treated like everybody else? And, the same way you shouldn't, well, I was going to say the same way you shouldn't be racist to a white person, but there's a whole bunch of people accepting that type of thing now. Let's say black people, good old fashioned. The same way you don't want to be racist to black people, is the same way you don't want to be anti-Semitic. You don't want to be hurtful to white people. Like, I don't know. This seems very weird. It doesn't even seem totalitarian. It seems weird that this was just brought up. It passed so quickly, and now it's going to hit the Senate. And like, what's going to happen? Because after it hits Senate, I don't know, man. I don't know. This is very weird. I don't know what's going to happen. Let me know what you guys think about this whole thing in the comment section. And I should probably hold on 1 second. Let's see if I can find this for you guys. It is Bill, if you want to search it, is H.R.6090, Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023. Okay? So you can look that up and you can actually read all through it and see what it really is about. And maybe from there, you form a better opinion. Stay informed. Otherwise, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm out.